You're listening to the Future of Convenience podcast, featuring senior retail executives and experts in the global convenience and mobility industry.
Welcome to the Future of Convenience podcast. I'm here in Sydney at the AACS and the CNI Media Connect 26 event. Fabulous opportunity to catch up with what's going on in the Australian industry, catch up with friends like Brett Barclay. Good to see you, Brett.
You too, Dan. Thank you.
You're a director of the CMA. You've got your finger on the pulse, I think, literally with everything that's going on in the Australian market.
But first, a word from our sponsor. From crispy fried chicken and hot chips to breakfast wraps and grab-and-go meals, Maris Food Equipment helps operators build food offers that customers keep coming back for. For more than 30 years, Maris Food Equipment has partnered with convenience and food service operators to deliver commercial cooking and food display solutions, backed by end-to-end support, including installation, training, menu development, ongoing service, and more. From concept through to execution, they work with you to launch and optimize food-to-go offers that drive sales, increase basket size, and maximize space. Whether you want to grow your food category or transition your business from traditional to a full food convenience offer, Maris Food Equipment can be your partner on the journey. With expert guidance, a dedicated development chef, and 24/7 support, they deliver more than equipment. They deliver a complete food solution, the Maris Solution. If you're ready to grow your food-to-go business in Australia and New Zealand, visit maris.com.au.
Just tell me a bit about your background for your business and also your relationship with AACS.
Thanks, Dan. Appreciate the opportunity. CMA, we basically are a market research agency. We run a number of programs in the channel. We run, obviously, research on shopper behaviour, and then we also run a program called Convenience Pulse, which measures the retailer-supplier relationships. And then what we do is with AACS, we write the State of Industry report, which basically is a collection of all the data from retailers, using the market read data from Sakana, but also extending past what we call the dark market, where the independent retailers don't provide data to a source, and we get that data back. And then we pull the report together. That enables us to give a really holistic view of the channel.
And this is the big event in the Australian industry,
Huge.
Isn't it?
Every March, either Sydney or Melbourne. This year in Sydney, it is the biggest event. Everyone gets together. We have, for the summit during the day, we have about 700 people, and for the dinner, which is a black tie event, about 800. So huge numbers, which is great.
I wish I'd packed my black tie.
Oh, you didn't pack it? No. Oh, no.
Maybe I can hire something.
Yeah.
Anyway, one of the big focuses at the event is looking at the state of the industry by the numbers, and that's something you help with.
Yeah, we pull the report together. We have a lot of non-disclosure agreements on the data we get with the retailers, but we pull it all together and make sense of it. So from a source, it's the number one source in Australia in terms of getting everything in. And the retailers do share a lot of information with us, even operational costs and etc. So we understand what's sort of going on, some of the challenges that we face, and certainly it's a challenging market at the moment.
Well, a good time to talk about it.
Yeah.
So just stepping back and looking across those numbers, Brett, tell me about the general state of the industry and tobacco.
Yeah, so tobacco, the main issue with tobacco, as I said, has been the regulation and the illicit trade. The illicit trade's been able to thrive in Australia. And that's had a huge impact on retailers that are still selling legitimate product. The three manufacturers, British American Tobacco, Philip Morris and Imperial, have all downsized their business in Australia, and that's going to have a marked effect in the long term as well. Where we have seen a little bit of improvement where governments, so state governments in Queensland in particular, have tried to stamp out illicit in some way. We've seen an immediate impact in terms of performance, and it comes straight back. So if they can get on top of it, we feel there's a bottom for the tobacco market. But while they aren't on top of it in other states, especially New South Wales and Victoria, that's having a huge impact on the result.
Very interesting. What about other categories?
Yeah, so definitely beverages is our hero category here. So beverages is now the number one category. It's had really high single-digit growth the last couple of years, which has helped propel, and it's helped offset some of the tobacco loss. But you just can't have your number one category, which it was, going down to number two. You can't replace that volume. So that's had an impact. Energy drinks has been absolutely the hero here. We're certainly seeing a shift in generational change where the younger Gen Z and the like are looking for caffeine more in an energy drink rather than coffee. So that's quite different to what we're seeing over the years. And all categories have done well, and you'll sort of see that in the data. But certainly energy's been our hero category.
Very, very, very good. And what about the overall store count in terms of the number of stores in the market? Are we in growth?
Yeah, we are in growth. We've added another just over 1% this year. It is interesting. So, there's a chart that we're sort of presenting where we're showing while we're increasing store numbers, with the impact of tobacco, we're actually getting less per store the last couple of years. So we'd actually seen store numbers go up, value go up, and we were actually seeing an improvement in value per outlet. But the last couple of years, it's actually started to decline. So even though we've added stores in, the value per outlet started to drop off a little bit. And that is primarily driven around that tobacco issue.
Let me throw a bit of a hand grenade into our conversation. Let's talk about GLP-1.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's certainly becoming a little bit more focus, and I know Corinne, who's my wife, and also the other director at CMA, she's going to present on GLP-1. We're actually starting to see a real shift in spending. Now, it's not dramatic at the moment, but we're certainly seeing pharmacy grab a little bit more share of the daily spend now, or the spend on a frequent basis. So we measure grocery, food service, so QSR, convenience and pharmacy is the one that's actually growing more, and that's on the back of GLP-1. So, and that's a huge impact, right? So you start to say, okay, if I've got $1,000 a week to spend, and that's going to take up more because it's not cheap, that's going to take up more of your spend. But also we're in the research that we've got now, you can see that it actually impacts snacking categories, because the likelihood is they're not going to go and want to buy a chocolate bar from a convenience store. They're not likely to snack.
What proportion of the Australian population are on these medications?
It's very low at the moment. There's not a lot of data on it in Australia. There's a lot more in the US. It's about 7% in the US, but so we don't actually have an Australian number at this point in time. No one's sort of talking about it, but it's certainly what's happened in the last probably 12 months. It's starting to really get a little bit more of a focus. And as I said, once we started to see that shift in spend towards pharmacy, we're like, wow, okay, this is going to have a bigger impact.
Did it surprise you when you saw the numbers moving?
Yeah, we did, because we thought, when you look at the 4 channels, we thought QSR and grocery were going to be the main ones. Well, in fact, QSR is in a similar situation to convenience, where it's had it pretty tough and they've had to drive it through value. Grocery is just natural, sort of hangs around, but it was really surprising to see that pharmacy jump.
That's fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah.
Let's stay on food and eating habits and, appealing to the next generation. Are there some standout retailers in the market that are getting towards that 50% of volume in food service? Yeah,
definitely. It's more coming from some of the independent groups rather than the majors. We are certainly seeing a shift in the major retailers like the 7-Elevens, Ampols and OTR groups, where we're starting to see the proportion of food service sales increase. And that's on the back of 2 things. One is an improved offer, but also obviously the decline in tobacco. But we do have retailers like APCO, and even Jack & Co, which I know you went and had a look at. You can see their food offers. What's really important with the food offer, it's the breadth of offer. So, pies and sausage rolls have been standardised, and certainly really important to the channel. But what we're starting to see is prepared food, even take-home food where it's pre-packed meals. People are starting to buy into that more and more. The quality's gotten better, and it actually provides decent value for money. So certainly we're starting to see breadth of offer really start to propel where food service becomes actually the number 1 category in some retailers.
Yeah. That's the future, isn't it?
It is. Well, we've talked about food and beverage for a while now. As it moves away, and we sort of see, food, beverage, and snacking as the three categories. Certainly, you've got to have a really strong food service offer. What's interesting is as I said, with the QSR, we know we're starting to encroach in that space, and that they're looking at that, and we're starting to see some breadth of offers from them in categories like beverages, where you'd normally go to, say, a McDonald's and just get, a Coke post-mix. They'd have shakes, and then they'd have various offers. Well, now they're looking at extending into, dirty sodas and things like that. So they're starting to talk about, where they're mixing different products up and starting to try and attract that younger generation in that space.
Yeah. Well, very, 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 very interesting. Let's address the elephant in the room. We're 3 weeks into Gulf War 3.
Yeah.
But, where was the Australian economy before we got to?
The Australian economy, it's been interesting because we actually saw a decline in inflation where we got down to around 2%, and then it started to jump again. So actually before the Gulf War, we saw inflation go back up. And in fact, we've just had yesterday another interest rate increase, and the last one, which was in February, there was an interest rate increase. So we were sort of the first country in the Western world to start to increase interest rates. So the economy was healthy, but inflation was starting to really impact. So, and that's, the cost of living, and we talk about the cost of living crisis, housing affordability and shortages. So it was tracking along quite well, and retail spend was sitting at around, total retail spend was sitting at around 5% growth, which was healthy. But with inflation and now with interest rate increases, it's going to put a bit of a handbrake on the economy. And we've had both wages growth and inflation over the last 6 months above the RBA, so the Reserve Bank, above their target rate. So that means they'll pull levers to bring that back down and bring inflation back down. There's a lot of talk about who's driving the wage growth, government or private, but it seems to be public more so that are driving that wage growth. And so that's having an impact as well, because when we look at the results out of the industry, labour costs in this channel were up over 10% last year. So, so that has a huge impact on operational costs in the channel. And if we don't start to bring them under control, what we did see is we lost workers per outlet. So we measure how many employees per outlet, and we saw that number come down, and that will continue to happen, which then puts challenges around service. So you want to make sure you're servicing the customer, but we're starting to see that come back a little bit, because you've got to reduce costs somewhere, because you're not getting the margin growth that you'd want to cover that.
Just thinking about the impact of higher fuel prices on in-store sales.
Yeah.
Obviously, this is asking you to look ahead, Brett. You've got massive experience in the market, but this is going to have an impact.
Yeah, we've always seen whenever the fuel price gets over $2 a litre in Australia, it has a huge impact. We were just before the Gulf War, we were sitting at about $1.60, $1.70 a litre, which is really healthy for the channel, because people will fill up the car and then they'll buy items in the shop. Once we hit that $2, we see a drop off. Now we're at $2.40, $2.50, and it could continue to go higher, and this is per litre. That's going to have a massive impact on shop sales, and we're already starting to see it. Early days, but we're already starting to see it where we're seeing some retailers in double-digit declines in shop sales on the back of fuel pricing, because it only goes so far. All right, everyone's got a set amount, and people are sort of, and especially with interest rate increases, that's going to have another impact as well.
Now, just throwing it onto you and thinking about CMA and your plans for the future. Tell me a bit about some other markets around the world, and what else you're doing. You've got a terrific base here in Australia, but you've got ambitions elsewhere as well. Yeah,
we have. We've just launched our Convenience Pulse program in the US, which is the benchmarking of the retailer-supplier relationship. That's Kevin Farley's our partner over there, and he's done a great job in getting it up. We're pleased to say we got 7-Eleven on board this wave, which was a huge win for us, being the largest retailer. So we figure, we feel as though, with that program we can help drive the collaboration between retailers and suppliers, and that's worked really well here. We've got the business in Australia and New Zealand, and that's our retailers and suppliers really enjoy that program, because it helps them navigate through some of the challenges that a retailer and supplier has on a day-to-day basis. And so launching in the US has been a real win for us.
Well, that's fantastic, and a huge market to get into. So congratulations for Brett, and thank you very much for talking to you. It's going to be a fun week here in Sydney, and I'm enjoying it already, and it's really nice to catch up.
Good on you. Thanks, Dan. Appreciate your time.
Thank you for listening to the Future of Convenience podcast, produced by Dan Munford, Jenna Ferguson, and Lorraine Evans. It is produced and edited and mixed by Carolyn Schneer, and music is provided by Jukebox Music. Learn more at globalconvenience.com. Before you go, it's Carolyn over here. I wanted to update you on our current exciting competition from Insight Research that we've been talking about on the last several episodes. The Smartest Store in the World competition is focused on the innovative adoption of new technologies, and we just posted all 21 entries from 12 countries on our website, globalconvenience.com. And I invite you to go over right now and check them all out. On April 30th, that list will narrow to a short list, and then it gets super exciting where you, listener, can vote on the top 3. Voting closes on June 4th, and the winner will be announced on June 17th online and at the NACS Convenience Summit Europe in Warsaw, Poland. Head over to globalconvenience.com now and check out the 21 smartest stores find some inspiration and new ideas, and follow us on LinkedIn for further coverage. The Smartest Store in the World competition is hosted by Insight Research and NACS, along with Accenture serving as the official knowledge partner. It's sponsored by Invenco, powered by Vontier, Plexor, and VenHub. Check it out while they're up there. Have fun.